What's up, guys? New studio, new me, new videos. Today I'm going to show how Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber song Stay was made. Disclaimer, I did this all by ear, so don't get mad at me if this is not like 100% accurate. So I just trusted my ears. So this song was produced by Cashmere Cat, Charlie Puth, Almar Fetty, and Blake Slatkin. And they also did the songwriting for this song too. It's pretty much like a summer hit song. And you've probably seen like the TikTok memes where people do the weird dancing thing. They're like, oh, okay, let's just jump into it. The song tempo is 170 BPM. Basically, you got your intro, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, and it just kind of repeats it. The song is in B flat minor, typical 6-7-1-5 chord progression. In the original song, Charlie Puth made a great video showing the synth used in the intro of the song. Now, I don't own a Juno 60, but I do have an emulation of that synth. This is a June 65 by Arturia. On patch 27, that's the sound. Here's the synth, what it sounds like with no effects. For the effects, I threw in some OTT, some gate, some chorus, a beat delay, some serum effects with distortion, hyper, dimension, compressor, more chorus, some EQ to cut off some of the highs, and a virtual tape machine to give it more of that analog sound. Now these two plugins are pretty much the same thing, you know, EQ and the filter. Now I use these in like the verse and the coda, the end of the song, so I'll show you how it's used as we continue this video, so keep watching it. And if we hear it with the effects, I used another Juno 6, this one's patch 28 synth harp. This preset sounds a little bit more closer to the original song. And I layered it with, you know, patch 27, the guitar preset. So it kind of like thickens up the sound a little bit. And basically I bounced these tracks, so just to save some CPU. And I also cut the ends just to emphasize the bottom note with. And that pretty much, you know, repeats throughout the entire track. And there you go, that's the lead. Pretty much 50% of the song is done. So now we're in the verse. You still have the same lead, but this time it's filtered, as you can see right here. I don't have the exact sample, so I just trusted my ears. So I used a kick sample by Vengeance Samples. This is a deep kick, and I layered it with like a sub kick. And when you hear it together, it gives it a little bit more thickness, you know. And I have the snare by also Vengeance Samples. And I actually pitched this down so it becomes a little bit more closer to the track. Because if you hear it without, it sounds too high. It sounds too dubstep in my ears. Pitched it down to -7, a lot closer. This is a bass guitar I recorded, running through some effects, a gate, and a Helix native. This is a preset I made a while ago, so I just have it in case. Here's the bass line. Then I duplicated this bass line and created like a sub bass. And this one I'm running it through another gate, saturation knob, and EQing it really heavily. I took out a lot of the highs and cut a little bit of the lows and increased this part a little bit just to emphasize the lower bass sound. And if you hear it together, it makes the bass sound a lot thicker. And this verse is pretty much the same throughout verse 2 and verse 3 with some little variations. Now in verse 2, there's a 2-bar rest, and that's where, you know, Justin Bieber gets featured in the song. Now in the second bar, there is a transition, and that kind of sounds like this. And, you know, I'm just reversing the kick here, using the same snare. Now verse 3, you have this very subtle synth. I'm automating this cutoff. This is a serum that I made. It's just a typical saw chord with some unison, you know, and I just automated the cutoff and I signed it to this macro one, and you can see it in action. And you have this guitar riff just playing, you know, typical power chords. And this one, same thing, I'm using a Helix native. And then, you know, at the end of like verse 3, there's 2 bars of silence. And then there's a clap, and this one's a Vengeance clap that I used. So now for this reverb, what I did was I pretty much just duplicated this track and just took this clap, and I used Valhalla Room as a reverb and just maxed out the decay, high cut, and depth. Then I just, you know, rendered it with the effect, and that's how I got the reverb effect. Here's the pre-chorus in blue. Pre-chorus is playing the same thing. Now the bass is playing the same thing in the verses. It's just sustaining the notes. Then in the next part, it just holds the note. It then does the slide at the end. That basically transitions to the chorus. Now the drums are pretty much playing the same thing as in the verse. It's just in the 5th bar of that pre-chorus, it just rests. Then there's a reverse snare right here. And this is where the bass slides and the chorus comes in. Now pre-chorus does the same thing, but this time with added hi-hats. You have a guitar riff doing the do-do-do-do-do-do. Now there's an impact that I have here. I just found it from Analog Labs. I'm just using a preset called Plug to Grand. Alright, now we're at the chorus in red. The drum beat's pretty much the same thing, but now we add a crash. The synth is playing the same thing as well, but this time, the filter automation is now bypassed. Now the bass is playing a little bit of the same thing, but with a little bit different variations. Like right here. I grouped chords all in one bus, and I'm just going to turn off the inserts for now, just to show you how these synths sound like individually. This is some preset I use called Epic Poetry. And right here I do a cutoff automation. We have Analog Lab. I'm using a Jan Choir EP preset, and it's pretty much playing the same thing. And that just repeats. And if we hear these all together, then we have like this transition synth right here. This is also a Juno 6. These are just the audio files that I bounced from these synths just to save CPU. Then there's a bass, which is a typical serum that I made. I threw in some automation just to mess around with the bend. As you can kind of hear it, it kind of wobbles this wave. And that kind of glues in the whole chords together. And this is the processing I used. I used OTT, Fahala plate. There's some EQs cutting off a little bit of the low end and cut off a little bit of the notch right here. I added a doubler to make it a little bit more wider. And this is a compressor I'm using to sidechain. Now this is basically the first 8 bars of chorus 1. Yeah. It's got that 80s vibe, In the next 8 bars, we add a little bit more elements to it. Now we have this guitar. And then we have same thing that's playing the same notes as the guitar. This is a Plug Grand preset from Analog Labs. Then we have that same impact that we heard in pre-chorus 2. Now we have this upbeat thing going on here. Sounded too synthy for me, so I added a guitar that I recorded. Gives it a little bit more click. And now we have the chorus playing the hi-hat with a little bit of variation. It's not exactly the same. Yeah. Now this 8 bars right here is pretty much the exact same in chorus 4. But now we have chorus 3, but I called it a bridge as well because it kind of acts like a bridge, but they're still singing the same chorus if you heard the song. Chords are the same, but there's a different rhythm. We'll start off with the synth. And this is basically a serum that I made. It's just a super sound chord. And I threw in some distortion, an OTT compressor, and cut in a little bit of the low end. I also layered it with some distortion guitar. This is the same plugged grand piano that we heard from the chorus. These are basically different kicks layered into one. And the bass is playing the same thing. So yeah, the first 4 bars playing the same thing as the chords. The the next 4 bars, it plays a sustained. And then you have this rest, then transition. The main lead comes in. Then we end it with a coda. Same thing that we played in the intro. But this time, I added a 1 knob filter, and it activates at the end. And the song's done. That's it. So that's pretty much the whole remake. Let me know if you think I nailed it or not. I don't know. I just did this by ear. I tried my best to make it close as possible, but who knows? Like, I didn't make this song. If you made it this far, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you punch that subscribe button, hit the bell, all notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.